Water boils on the stove. A long silence marks the end of Laime's story. Then curiosity gets the better of me. I ask him to tell us about what he calls the magical aspect of the lost world. Laime hesitates. Then he starts to talk, to reflect dreamily. I live, he says, with the ever-present sensation that in the vast silences of the boundless plateau of Awantepui, there are caves in which unknown creatures exist. I know it's difficult to believe, but, he continues, I hope to establish contact with them. I have never seen them, but I feel their presence, and they have made their existence known to me. I will go on seeking a way to communicate with them as long as I live and continue to live here. Who are these beings? I ask. They are creatures of a higher intelligence, Laime replies. It is they who are responsible for the sharply cut outline of El Sero del Sol, the mountains of the sun. He stops talking, and I understand that I should follow him outside. Is that El Sero del Sol? I ask, pointing to a particularly unusual-looking peak among the many unusual peaks of the rocky archipelago that is Awantepui. Yes, replies Laime, and he draws my attention to the symmetrical cut in the peak's outline. A few days later, we return to our base, from where, at dawn on a beautiful, clear day, we took off again. Destination, El Sero del Sol. During the flight, I thought over what Laime had told me on the basis of his geological expertise. In nature, there is no other case of such twin symmetry. The fact that both sides of the mountain are identical does make one wonder. Slow erosion or a violent seismic cataclysm could produce such an enormous indentation, but would it be cut into two identical parts? As far as Laime is concerned, it is impossible that El Sero del Sol was created with such geometric perfection by the forces of nature. Geometry is a discipline that leaves nothing to chance. Laime conjectures that the mountain symmetry is the work of beings that belong to a superior intelligence. I'm sure he thinks they were made by an unimaginable machine, perhaps a spaceship, or at least something alien from another world, or even from the future. Yes, a gigantic craft that one day landed on the largest mountain on the Awantepui Plateau, and the massive power released by its engines created the perfect indentation. In other words, the peak was a base for spacecraft arriving or returning from a distant world or a distant age. In the folklore of the ethnic groups that survive in this area, a legend has been handed down from generation to generation. It maintains that there was a day, one day only, when the sun rose in this perfect valley. Today, the sun rises 15 degrees further to the west. Calculating the slow variation in the angle of inclination of the Earth's axis, it has been determined that the sun could have risen here about 35,000 years ago. But 35,000 years ago, the Americas were uninhabited. So there was no one living here in the jungle to see the sun rise behind these mountains. Laime's hypothesis is that the event occurred when the Indios already inhabited the valleys and riverbanks in the vicinity of the Lost World. The blinding light that suddenly appeared behind the peaks of Awantepui was the flaming trail of a spaceship, either landing or taking off. And it is of that fiery glow that their legend tells. Fantasies, hypotheses. All this is forgotten when faced with the natural grandeur of the Lost World and its unreal dimension, its kaleidoscopic play of light and color changing from one instant to the next. An instant that seems to last thousands of years, that bring countless mutations. Some of those transformations are real, physical. Others are magical, like the insubstantial form of a fairy tale castle that refuses all attempts at logical understanding. We had set out to discover the true nature of the Lost World. But we were forced to give up in the face of its inexplicable enigmas. We leave the mysteries of Awantepui, El Mundo Perdido, to be watched over by its timeless rocky sentinels.